So we're going to be talking about sleep. And first thing I want you to understand is sleep starts in the brain, okay? And there's a few things we know about the brain. The brain's kind of like mama. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? Okay? Well, the brain has got to be happy. And if the brain ain't happy, you're going to suffer in a lot of different ways. Sleep is one of those things. So for the brain, this is my picture of a brain right here, to be happy, we got to have some oxygen. We have to have glucose, which is blood sugar. And we got to have stimulation. That makes for a happy brain. Now we're going to be talking a fair amount about the glucose, the blood sugar, because that definitely affects our sleep. What the brain likes is a steady supply of sugar, particularly at nighttime, because we're not eating at nighttime. You know, basically, if you think of what's breakfast, breaking the fast. That's where the term breakfast actually even came from. So at nighttime, we're not eating, so the brain is looking for a steady supply of sugar overnight. What it doesn't like, that's what this little picture here depicts for us. The sugar should be within a certain high and a low here, and it will fluctuate a little bit within that. The brain doesn't like for it to go too high or too low. Either one of those is going to cause a problem, particularly if it goes too low. It'll start a whole process that's going to disturb your sleep, which we're going to talk more about that, okay? So glucose is critically important. What's going to help you to keep your blood sugar levels level at nighttime is several things. One, I've got it in your notes, is not having any carbs or sweets before you go to bed. That's going to help you. Pardon? I understand some of this is going to hurt. Okay? You're not going to like some of the things that I've got to say here. But if you're having problems with your sleeping, you got to know what the reality is here, okay? Another thing in here is anytime you do have carbs or sweet, when I say carbs, I'm talking about carbohydrates, okay? Which is your flours, pastas, you know, a lot of your fruits, things of that nature. Any kind of sweets, be sure to have fat and fiber and protein with it. The reason, if we're just eating sugars, sweets before we go to bed, or really this is all day long anyway, but we're specifically talking about going to bed. I go to bed around 10 o'clock. So if at 9:30 I'm going to have me a little snack, I'm going to have me a honey bun. Okay? My sugar's going to spike up there. Then what happens? Anytime you have sweets, it does that to you. You get high off the sweet, you know, the sugar's up, you're energetic, you feel good, and then you crash. Okay? At nighttime, if you happen to crash, your body doesn't like that. Because what does your brain like? A steady supply of sugar all night long. So it goes into this whole process called gluconeogenesis of making sugar. So that it'll get it into it breaks down fats, so it gets your sugar back up into this level again. And this will wake you up right here. And we'll go into a little more specifics on that, okay? So when you're having the carbs, if you have proteins and fats and fiber with it, it helps your body to break down that sugar a lot slower. So you don't have this spike of high and low, you'll keep a more steady supply of sugar during the day. Does that make sense? You know, got questions? Please ask here, okay? And then for breakfast, I'm going to tell you we need to be having more fats and protein. The honey bun and 2 cups of coffee is not going to do it for you, okay? We counsel a lot of people on their dietary needs, and constantly we are coming up with, well, I don't have time for breakfast, or I just have a Debbie cake and a cup of coffee and I go. And that is creating a lot of these problems. The next issue I get is, well, I get nauseous if I have too big of a breakfast. I understand that. And it's because you've probably spent a lifetime of doing what you do, so you change these things. Your body's not necessarily going to like it at first. But I have yet to have a single person come back and tell me that they couldn't do it slowly and gradually. What I usually tell folks to do, if you're the honey bun and 2 cups of coffee person, or worse, you just don't do anything, then you need to, I would recommend you start off with like a protein shake. So, some of this protein powder, mix it up with some milk or whatever you like. Almond milk, cashew milk, different things. I'm not a real I'm not real big on dairy milk. And, that's pretty darn quick. Mix it up, drink it and go, and you're getting fat, you're getting fiber, you're getting vitamins. It's a pretty good choice, a good way to start, okay? You can work your way into a bigger breakfast later on there. So those are 3 rules to go by as far as keeping a good, steady blood sugar during the day rather than having these spikes going up and going down here for us, okay? Who's heard of melatonin? Most people have. Everybody knows, well, yeah, I was told I can try melatonin. Who's tried melatonin? You go to the health food store, you get you some melatonin, right? Works for a little while, then it pretty much quits working. Never even worked for you, okay? Pretty typical. And the process with your body does need melatonin. Here's the process it goes through. Who's heard of tryptophan? Same thing. You tried tryptophan as well? Pardon? Yeah, if you eat turkey meat, you get tryptophan. Yeah, tryptophan, yeah, turkey meat's loaded with, yeah. Tried a lot of things? Okay, most people have on there. But tryptophan is an amino acid, okay? The body takes tryptophan, breaks it down into what's called 5-HT, 5-hydroxytryptophan, which then makes serotonin. Serotonin is a very important neurotransmitter in our systems. Your body, your brain needs a certain amount of serotonin. Serotonin helps our moods, helps a lot of things, helps bodies to relax as well. The tryptophan helps the body to relax through this process. As a matter of fact, there's medications called SSRI, serum serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Basically, it keeps the serotonin in the system longer. Okay, and they prescribe that for moods, for depression. They prescribe it for a lot of things like that. Okay, usually works for a while, and then eventually it gets to where it doesn't work anymore, just like most of the other things. And then the body breaks down the serotonin, and then you have melatonin. So melatonin is a hormone that your body uses to help you sleep. That's the process. Now, this is a very complex chemical process that is easily disturbed. There's where a lot of our problems come in, is when this process gets disturbed. I've got it in your notes. Chronic caffeine and nicotine use disturbs that process. Okay? And it's kind of like this never-ending cycle. If you're not sleeping, what happens? You're going to take a couple of caffeine. It's going to take caffeine to get you going in the morning because you didn't sleep good in the first place. So what happens, you take the caffeine and your honey bun, your blood sugar goes up. After an hour or two, you're crashing, so you're going for that next cup of caffeine or honey or Mountain Dew or whatever you like, and maybe another honey bun or some other snack. You end up snacking and drinking coffee all day long. This is what I hear from a lot of my patients that are having issues. They snack and they drink coffee. They don't have a decent meal till supper time, and usually their complaint is, well, I don't understand it. I hardly eat anything all day long, And I'm gaining weight. I can't lose weight because their system's messed up. They're creating the problem with this issue right here. Okay, they're up and down there. Caffeine and crash, sugar, the whole thing, it's a process that goes on, which causes chronic caffeine and nicotine consumption, which now you're feeding the problem. It's going to mess it up even more. Blood sugar being out of control messes with this process. Inflammation, chronic inflammation in your body is a big one that is often overlooked by a lot of doctors, a lot of people. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. Foods, having food allergies or food sensitivities will mess with this process, because food allergies and food sensitivities will feed the inflammation, the chronic inflammation, keeps your body inflamed all the time. So if your body has got any of this stuff going on, then this process isn't going to work the way it's supposed to. So now you got to figure out, well, what the heck's causing all this, okay? I call it the cortisol curve. So I get up at 6 in the morning, between 5 and 6 in the morning I'm up, usually in bed by 10 o'clock. So that's me right there. You'll have to draw in your own hours, okay? There's this thing that our body's producing, it's called cortisol. And how many folks here don't even need the alarm? You get up at a certain time and you often, boom, that happens to me all the time. I'm looking at the clock, my alarm actually goes off at 5, and it's 4:49, and I'm awake, and I look at it, oh, yeah, okay, the alarm's going to go off in a minute anyway, okay? There. So the cortisol is what does that. So your body is producing this cortisol, and when you wake up first thing in the morning, your cortisol should be at its highest. Right there. That's what wakes you up. If your cortisol is high, that is not only what will wake you up, but you should wake up feeling refreshed and rested. And then during the course of the day now, your cortisol is slowly dropping, to at bedtime, it should be at its lowest. That's when you're trying to read the book and you're forced, you're like, doing that number. You can't hardly stay awake. Your cortisol's dropped. So this whole process is happening as it should when all that works right, okay? What happens with folks, we tested somebody the other day. He can't go to bed, can't fall asleep. When he does finally fall asleep, come morning time, he feels horrible. He drinks, I think, 8 to 10 cups of coffee during the course of the day. And the typical story I just told you. It's what I hear all the time. And he really doesn't eat anything till supper time, so he's just snacking and drinking coffee all day long. So there's this test. What you do is the nice thing about this particular test, you don't have to have blood, you just spit into a little thing, you capture it in your saliva, they can measure it. You take it first thing in the morning, usually later on in the morning, or around noon, and then later in the afternoon, and then at bedtime. So you do it 4 times during the course of the day, you get an idea of what that curve looks like, okay? This guy's morning one was down here. By bedtime, he was up there. No wonder he can't sleep and he feels lousy all day long. It was going the exact opposite, okay? So here's another thing. When this is going on, cortisol causes your body to produce that term we already said, the gluconeogenesis. When your cortisol goes up, your body starts producing blood sugar. Okay? When your blood sugar goes down here, your body's going to say, oh, blood sugar's down, we need to create some blood sugar. Guess what it starts producing to get your blood sugar up? It produces cortisol. So that's why when your blood sugar drops, you wake up. And for some reason, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. A lot of people say, I can go to bed, I get to bed fine, but I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't go to bed again. I can't go back to sleep. This is what's happening to you, right there. That's the process, okay? Cortisol's going up, boom, blood sugar's starting to kick in. All right, your body says, I gotta get your blood sugar back up here where it's supposed to be, and then you have a hard time going back to sleep again. That's the whole process right there. Understanding that? Let me add one other little thing here to this. We've got, all right, let's say there's your thyroid, kidneys, other side, kidney, and then we have what's called the adrenal glands right over the top of the kidneys here, okay? So we've got something called the hypothalamus, which is kind of like the monitor in our brain. It's constantly monitoring all these chemicals, all this process that we've been talking about, as well as 10,000 other processes that our body's constantly doing. When the hypothalamus sees that certain things are dropping, let's say the blood sugar, the cortisol levels, or in this case we'll look at the cortisol levels here. It sends us a message to the pituitary. The pituitary, it's kind of like a messenger here. The pituitary sends a message down to the thyroid. Okay? Pituitary sends TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. See, here's where the thyroid start becoming part of this issue too, because a lot of people have thyroid problems as well with all this. So the thyroid now is kicking into gear, and it's producing what's called T3 and T4, it's thyroid hormone. And what happens with the body, actually the thyroid produces more T4 than anything. Problem with T4 is your body can't really use it. What it does use is T3. And the 3 and the 4 has to do with iodine. We won't get into all the complication processing, okay? What's important to know is the T3 and the T4 is converted to T3 in the liver and your gut. So now the liver and the gut gets into play here. So if your liver and your gut are not healthy, then this process isn't going to work properly. And then we send messages to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands is what produces our cortisol. So, and we see how important cortisol is to this whole process, okay? So now we've got our thyroid, we got our gut and our liver. All this stuff has got to be healthy for this process to work right. You see how complicated it can get? So when you go to the doctor and you just say, well, I'm not sleeping, and they just give you a sleeping pill, you haven't fixed anything. All you've done is what we call modulated. You've changed a little chemistry in your body that really hasn't done anything to help any of the process. Same thing with going to the health food store and getting your melatonin or your tryptophan or all these other things. They all work temporarily, but none of them fix the problem. The only way you can really figure this out is with proper testing. I've got it in your notes on the back side, on the last page, back side there. This particular test right here, the cortisol and neurotransmitter testing, as I said, it's one that's relatively easy. You spit into a little thing over the course of the day. We send it to the lab. They come back with a nice little graph, tell you what's going on, and it also measures certain neurotransmitters, lets us know if your brain's happy or not. Okay? Also, we recommend, though, is you have what we call a complete blood evaluation to really see what's the rest of your health like. You know, because our philosophy is not to just give you, here, take these vitamins and see if it helps. Our philosophy is to get our patients improved from the ground up. Let's make sure the gut's healthy, the liver's healthy, as well as the brain and the thyroid and all these other things. And then you're going to get results that are going to last. It's not going to be just, well, as long as I take these vitamins, I can do okay, but as soon as I get off of them, problem's back. Okay, that's not a good goal. That's never my goal with my patients. I want to get them healthy so they eventually can start getting off of some of this stuff and taking control of their own health there. Okay? What else? May I see your notes a second here? Oh yeah, the sensitivity, the food sensitivity test. That's a biggie. People are often have not necessarily food allergies, but food sensitivities. If you find yourself after certain meals feeling bloated and you know you haven't eaten all that much, chances are you ate something that your body is indeed sensitive to. And there's testing available for that. You can find out. And by just simply eliminating those foods for a while, you'll be amazed at the results that you can get.